Canver froze in place, stunned, unable to believe he'd come too late to save his grandfather. Snap out of it, Dar-Anadhar spoke into his mind. We don't know if we're too late or not. The woman doesn't think so. Your grandfather might have defeated the great white dragon. Canver couldn't picture how his grandfather would have survived a confrontation with the great white. Without his armor? He asked Dar-Anadhar. Without his weapons? Unable to remember any of his training? We don't know exactly what he does or doesn't remember, Dar said. And judging from how helpful your armor hasn't been up here, he was probably better off without it. Your armor is made to resist poison and fire, not cold. Now come back to me and we'll go find him. Canver limped over to Eska. He drew out his money pouch and handed it to her. She shuddered and took the money, but didn't say anything. My name is Canver, he told her. I'm Kumar's grandson. I had a nightmare that he faced a great white dragon, and I've come to save him. He's fought a lot of dragons in his lifetime. I don't think he's dead. I'm going to go look for him and Denali and bring them back to you. Canver hobbled away without waiting for a response from the Taniat woman. He left Kopik's spear at the edge of the snow patch and hurried back to the headland where Dar-Anadhar waited. Denali gripped the spear while the dogs ran over the snowy ground. Ahead, a giant snowdrift barred the way, promising a difficult slog up over it. Denali gritted his teeth and looked behind him. The wolves had fallen silent again. I don't like it, Denali told Frost. Frost burbled in reply. Too bad, I can't understand what you're saying. Denali could feel the dragon's emotions, but she didn't talk to him the way a human would. His father lay unconscious on the sled. His face pale, his head swollen. The dogs reached the steep slope of the drift and slowed as they punched through the soft snow up to their chests. Denali jumped from the back of the sled and ran behind, pushing it to help the dogs. He was down to 3 dogs, and his father wasn't a small man. Panting, the dogs stopped halfway up to catch their breath. Denali's muscles burned from the exertion. His stomach grumbled for food. A tuft of snow puffed up at the top of the drift, caught on the wind, and was swept away. Denali stiffened and looked up. Another puff of snow kicked up, and then several wolves topped the rise and lunged down toward him. Hike, Denali screamed. Gee! He pushed the sled into motion and jumped on the runners as the startled dogs bolted to the right, tearing the sled across the edge of the drift and then back down onto flat ground, heading inland toward the steaming mountain. The terrified dogs ran flat out, but the giant wolves kept pace a few yards off to his left with long easy strides. Denali gripped the handbar with his one hand and lifted the spear, readying for an attack. Most of the wolves stayed parallel with him while one fell back and came up at his rear. Gee, Denali cried again, urging the dogs further to the right, trying to set the sled on course for the white dragon's cave. It was a long way, but he had to do something. Father, wake up, he shouted. Kumar did not respond. Off to Denali's right, movements on the ice caught his attention. The wolves he'd encountered before sped toward him, blocking any escape to the east. Denali's pounding heart sounded louder than the pad of the dog's feet on the ice and the creak of the lead line straining to pull the sled. A cold wind sliced his cheeks. Gradually the 2 sets of wolves drew closer, pinning him between them, forcing the dogs on a path straight ahead. 100 fears tumbled through Denali's mind. He was trapped. He knew it. The wolves knew it. They were playing with him. Letting him run, knowing he would not escape. The snow wolves would hunt a giant ice bear this way, and Denali was no threat compared to that. They're going to eat us, Frost, Denali said. I'll be lucky to kill one of them before they do. Frost reared up on her hind legs, spread her wings, and hissed. The sled jolted. She lost her balance and thumped back down beside Kumar. Denali let out a grim chuckle. Yes, you are a ferocious little girl. I'm sure that will scare them all away. Frost lowered her head and whined. The dogs slowed, tired from their fast sprint and the weight of the sled. The wolves slowed as well, matching their pace with Denali's and pressing close enough to the sled that Denali could see their eyes and saliva dripping from their open jaws. He shivered with fear. The wolf pack was 10 times more terrifying than the great white dragon had been. But then Denali had not had time to be truly frightened of the dragon. The battle with it had happened so fast. The wolves were in no hurry. They enjoyed running their prey to a standstill. Hike, Denali shouted at the dogs. They made a half-hearted attempt to redouble their speed, but soon fell back to a trot. Foam frothed at the edges of their mouths from the effort, and they rolled their eyes in terror, looking from the wolves on one side of them, to the wolves closing in on the other. Father! Denali tried to shake Kumar awake. Frost hissed and blew a puff of cold air into Kumar's face. Kumar opened bleary eyes and stared up at Denali. The wolves, Denali shouted. They're upon us. Kumar gazed groggily around. His eyes widened, and the hand holding the hunting knife jerked up into a defensive position. What are they waiting for? He muttered. The sled topped a rise and then slewed down into a narrow valley between two arms of the mountain. A sheer cliff blocked their path straight ahead. Denali stared up at it in horror. The wolves had run him straight into a trap, pinning him against the cliff face. The dogs stopped. The sled slid down beside them and bumped up against the cliff. Denali jumped off, put his back to the ice, and readied the spear. The wolves stalked forward. Kumar forced himself up to stand beside Denali. The dogs whimpered and cowered back against the cliff. Kumar cut their lines so they could run, though Denali doubted any of them would escape the hungry wolves. Frost jumped from the sled and rubbed against Denali's leg as the wolves inched closer, growling and snapping. Get behind me, Denali told Frost. Stay out of the way. He hoped the wolves would leave the baby dragon alone. If they were smart, they'd know she would turn to ice in their mouths if they killed her. Great white dragons, even baby ones, were not edible prey. Frost stayed right beside Denali, hissing and spreading her wings the way her father had when he confronted Kumar. Though Denali figured the little dragon would be little help against the wolves, he suddenly felt better having her beside him, like she was trying to reassure him that everything would be all right. I don't think so, Frost, Denali said. Is that dragon talking to you? Kumar asked. A wolf lunged at him, snapping at his arm. Kumar sliced the wolf across the eyes. It yelped in pain and fell back. What can it hurt? We're going to die anyway, Denali said. Two wolves lunged at him. He thrust the spear into one of them. I don't intend to die, Kumar grunted as he threw himself at the second wolf, slitting its throat. The wolf Denali had speared, twisted and leapt away, tearing the spear out of Denali's hands. Kumar swore and grabbed the haft of the spear as it swung past him. He tore the spear from the chest of the retreating wolf and held it out to Denali. Denali shook his head. You should keep it. I'm no good with it. I'm too little. Denali was shaking and couldn't stop. His father had blinded one wolf already and killed another. Denali's spear thrust had injured the third wolf but not killed it. He'd missed its heart. Take it, Kumar shouted at him. I can't fight them alone. I need you. Just let the next one get a little bit closer before you strike. The wolves' growls deepened, and the main body of them closed in. Denali took the spear back from his father. Kumar steadied himself and breathed deeply, eyes focused on the wolves, waiting for the next one to move. Denali lifted the spear, but couldn't decide which of the wolves to point it toward. He jerked it back and forth, unsure of where to strike. Steady there, Kumar said. They can't all come at once. There isn't enough room. Watch their front shoulders. They'll crouch in preparation to leap at us. Probably 2 or 3 at a time. If we stay up against the cliff, they won't be able to come around behind us. We'll only have to take a few of them at a time. Kumar sounded so sure of what the wolves would do. He seemed to know, like somehow he knew the great white dragon would flash its stone before attacking. How do you know? Denali asked. Have you fought snow wolves before? The wolves lunged forward, but not at Denali and Kumar. They went for the dogs, tearing into them. The dogs tried to run, but only Miki got away, streaking across the snow as fast as he could, his tail tight between his legs. Denali half hoped he would get clean away and half hoped some of the other wolves would go chase him down, leaving less to attack Denali. But with the dogs out of the way, all the wolves turned their full attention on Kumar and Denali. No. I haven't fought snow wolves before, Kumar said in a choked voice. Perhaps he finally remembered how much he loved his dogs. But I've faced other predators. At least these boys don't breathe fire or spit acid. After you've faced down a great red dragon in its lair, what's a little pack of snow wolves? He let out a bitter laugh that did not reassure Denali.